let's talk now about the 6A.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
we were kind of talking about it, rounding about the first segment there. But this is the new mid-range phone from Google, and it is pretty stellar. We just put out I'm not even going to call it an unboxing. We had a quick clip up front of Robbie taking it out of the box, but other than that, it was more of an impressions video. Robbie, you actually put your SIM in this and used it for a little bit. So what were your impressions? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of, I saw some people talking about Marquez's MKBHD's video about some of the gripes he kind of had with it and him being a little detached from reality. And, to his defense, I think a guy that's been doing this as long as he has, that's as deep into the tech world as he is, it's easy. It's easy to kind of lose touch with, it's hard for me sometimes to remember what people actually use, like real people use Chromebooks for. And luckily I have, family members and friends and stuff that I constantly am referring Chromebooks to that remind me that, you don't care about, I can tell you about all these 10 things and you don't care about those things. And so I tried to kind of take that mindset with looking at this phone.
Yeah.
So instead of being the tech nerd that spent years selling phones and obsessing about cell phones, smartphones, and all that kind of stuff, I tried to look at it as like, what do people use cell phones for? And all your basic stuff, really, it ends up coming down a lot to software. The way that the phone delivers the software experience to you. And so, the one thing that I've said this countless times that always brings me back to Pixel isn't some hardware magic or some, I don't know, stylus or some pop out thing or whatever. There's never a gimmick. There's never a hardware gimmick that brings me back to Pixel. It's always software. Mm-hmm. It's Google's take on Android. It's their way of handling animations. It's their way of dealing with the features and the Pixel specific stuff that comes along with the phone that ends up being all the little things that you don't even notice while you're using it until you stop using it and you're like, oh crap, I don't want to get that because I don't have a Pixel. I can't glance at my phone and see what that song is. The at a glance widget isn't the same on other phones as it is on my Pixel. And for a long time it was the Discover feed being on the left side of the panel wasn't there unless you had a Google made phone. And that was a huge detractor. Then especially with Material U, I noticed with the OnePlus 10 Pro that I tried out, their take on Android 12 is very much like Android 11. So it didn't look like Android 12. It looked mostly like Android 11 still. And I found that I missed all the material design tweaks and stuff that they've done with this new version. And so it's 100 different things that create the Pixel experience. And kudos to Google for creating something like this, for over the years of honing this view they have of Android into something that makes you want to go back to it. And then, you got the cameras, obviously, that are always great. I just like the fact that my whole family has learned to refer to it as Pixel Fix It. We'll just point the phone and be like, I don't know, that's a terrible, I don't know, Pixel Fix It.
The sun is pointing right in the middle of the frame.
Right behind
it's
you.
Okay.
And
it's fine.
Pixel Fix It. Don't worry about it. And I like that I can rely on it. I've had it for long enough that I know that it's going to do what it's going to do, and so all of that stuff has nothing really. I mean, it does have something to do with hardware, but it doesn't have anything to do with hardware gimmicks. Give me a good screen and a decently built phone, and then put that software in that package. And that's what the 6A is. I mean, it's, this, I love that they used plastic on the back to save money. It makes it lighter. It doesn't detract from the look. You can tell once I tell you, and you're like, yeah, that's done. That's not glass. It's not quite as smooth. It's grippy a little bit.
Now it's funny because Marquez
said it's glass. It is not. Okay. And so that tells me it'll fool you if you don't know the difference. But if you
that's
pop
good.
I mean,
if it fooled him, yeah, absolutely.
Just rub your finger on your phone there, Gabe, and then rub the back of the 6A, and you'll notice
very
immediately.
Slight.
It's not glass.
Tapping it with your fingernail, I can feel it.
Yeah.
But even on the Google store, it says back panel, thermoform. What was it? Thermoform something?
I don't remember.
Nuclear polycarbonate
you had it in the video.
Dihedron
Yeah, it's plastic. Look, and it's fine.
composite.
It's okay.
There you go, composite.
Thermoformed composite. It's plastic, but nobody wants to say plastic because we think of plastic as a fork or a solo cup. But plastic's awesome in a lot of different applications, and with metal rails and a well-made plastic back, you don't know the difference. It's going to be in a case anyway. It cost saves. It's way more durable. So I'm like, that's not a big deal at all. So now you've got a pretty decent piece of hardware that delivers the Pixel experience in its fullness because Tensor's inside. And where Google did the biggest change this year over every other year is including the latest processor. It'd be the same as the Pixel 4a having come out with a Snapdragon 865 in it, or 855, I think is what was in the 4. And so that's a huge step forward too. And with them having their own in-house silicon, that is possible with that. I think the only downgrade that steals from the experience a little bit is the 60 hertz screen. And I do, like, a lot of people were disagreeing with MKBHD on this, but I kind of agree with him. Like, there is something a little jankier feeling about this 60 hertz screen than others, and I can't tell if that's the fact that I haven't used a non-90 or 120 hertz screen in, I don't know, 2 years, like on a regular basis. So I can't tell if it's extra janky. What's weird is I jump into Apex Legends on that phone, and it doesn't feel jerky to me. It feels pretty dang smooth. So I don't know. And it could just be an animation issue with Google software or something. Again, after using it for about 5 minutes, I stopped really noticing it that much. It's not like apps are loading slowly or anything. It's just there's a little bit of frame dropping in certain spots. It feels like it's more. It's worse than it should be. Really, I don't think it's just the screen. But
we were filming B-roll yesterday, and I was sitting and kind of messing with it for the first time, and I didn't notice anything.
Yeah, it's only certain times, and so that's what tells me it's probably, there could be something with, if Google's software is now tweaked, obviously, to be running on, they've been doing 90 hertz screens since the Pixel 4. If they're really tweaked to do that, and they haven't really taken into account to turn some of those frame rates down, maybe, or I don't know. Yeah. I'm not really sure.
It could be a simple software tweak, honestly.
Yeah. I'm sitting here just swiping through. I mean, you can maybe see it from this other camera. It's going to be hard. I mean, we're filming at 30, and this is not going to get captured on camera the way it looks sitting here swiping. But this is moving right along.
What about
there was a little something right there.
The fingerprint sensor.
That's
been
good.
the two people I've watched have said it's bad, but which is odd because we were expecting it to be better than the 6 and the 6 Pro.
Yeah, I didn't notice any difference. Like, I never had any problems with it reading. It's not fast.
That's what I'm wondering, if it's like, because there's different people that say different things. Like Michael Fisher said it was arguably one of the worst he's ever used, but then he also compared it to the 6 and 6 Pro. So I think in his opinion, very respected opinion, he thinks the 6 and 6 Pro are really bad as well. But then again, he had a bum unit and had to get a replacement. He's only had the phone for like 2 days, so he did an Instagram live yesterday because he hasn't done his review yet. But then Marquez talking about the fingerprint sensor, which is funny because over the weekend I was doing what I do and smoking a bunch of meat, and I had nitrile gloves on that I wear when I'm cooking. My fingerprint sensor on my 6 works flawlessly with a glove on.
What?
Because they're that thin.
That's
I mean,
awesome,
it could. But I was showing my wife. I was like, "Look at this."
That's awesome.
She's like, "There must be something wrong with it." So she tried to unlock it with her finger, and it wouldn't work. It is, like you said, it's not lightning fast. But after having this for a few weeks, I don't notice, because I always felt like my OnePlus was faster. But I haven't had any issues with the accuracy or having to press it more than once or hold my finger for a long time. So I don't know.
Yeah, right there, I feel like it was something they tweaked on the 6. I've had no issues with mine recently. Like, I'm sitting here.
Yeah, and even after all those tweaks, like I remember, Joe, you having better success with yours, and my Pixel 6 was still no good.
Right.
But since I moved to the Pro, I've not really thought about it. Again, it's not fast. I'm not even trying to say like, oh, it's super fast. Like, I love the one on the Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus that I had. Like it literally was just as soon as you contact the screen, boom, it's done.
It was,
and that's what I'd like.
It's not optical though, is it?
No, it's ultrasonic.
Yeah, ultrasonic. Yeah.
And so, I feel like I'm sure that's a much more expensive sensor, but that's what it needs to move to next. Like everybody just needs to get away from these optical sensors on the screen.
Yeah, I feel like, in my opinion, if they would get rid of the second bump when it unlocks, your brain would not notice the delay as much. That's what made it feel like it was so much. Because I would take my OnePlus and this, and I would do them at the same time. They really weren't that different. It's that second bump when it unlocks that makes your brain register. There's a delay between me touching it and it opening.
If it just did the one.
I think if it just bumped when you touch it, you would never notice.
I hadn't even noticed that.
OnePlus wasn't actually any faster, but in my brain, it felt 10 times faster.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, your brain's a powerful tool, sir.
And I think that's why eventually, once you use it for a while, you get used to it. Like you're okay with it. And so, and I would assume, Gabe, now that you've been using the 6 for a little while, like you probably don't think about that very often.
No, not at all. Not until we just sat here and brought it up. Yeah, I don't think about it whatsoever. And again, was extremely impressed at how well it works, even in diverse conditions. Mm-hmm. So.
And so, if you take away the whole 60 hertz thing, and I said this in our impressions video, like if you are fine with that, if you're okay with that, and okay with a 6-inch phone, like it's a smaller phone for sure, but like if all those things work for you, like the rest of the Pixel 6 experience is here. Mm-hmm. It's downgraded hardware in the cameras, but it's the tried and true 12.2 megapixel camera that they've been using since the Pixel 2. Right. And you can say what you want about camera hardware, but as well as I do, every year new phones come out and they have better whatever, bigger numbers, better specs, and somehow don't take better photos. Nope. Google's photo ability is all in software. And again, you've got Tensor inside. So, it's going to take whatever you hand it and make it look awesome. And I was having a really hard time telling the difference, other than with closer up objects, because the focal length is different on the primary shooters between that and then the Pixel 6 or the Pixel 6 Pro. It was hard to tell the difference between the two from a color, contrast, clarity, sharpness, all that stuff. Like it all stands up because it's, yes, you got a 50 megapixel camera, but it's binned, which means they take 4 pixels to 1 pixel basically. So they bin it at 12.5 megapixels basically. And so even though there's 50 megapixels of information, which is good, you're getting more info, right. It's still taking a 12.5 megapixel photo. And so, and that's the case with all large megapixel cameras. They're always going to bin those pixels. And so you're not getting that much more sharpness really overall. And Google's been working with this set of lenses for a long time and this set of sensors. So they know how to make their software make the most out of that stuff. And so I don't feel like there's almost any downgrade in the camera department there. I wish I could say, I kind of want to be able to say oh no, the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro takes so much better photos. They just don't. Not to my eye anyway.
Yeah, we're gonna do a camera test. I'll do one over the weekend. Take some photos on both phones, and then we'll do a little camera test on Instagram, little A/B test, and just see what people think.
Yeah, and it's a funny thing because Michael Fisher did his little live yesterday, and if you don't dig into the specs, you wouldn't know that it is the older camera array it's the one from the, like you said, it's the older one from the older Sony they've used forever. He obviously hadn't dug into the specs yet because people were asking, what have they dumbed down the camera? And his response was, I'm not sure. So that means in 2 or 3 days of having it and using it, he's not noticed a difference in the photos that he's taking. So that says a lot about Google software and what they're doing.
And as a Pixel 6 Pro user, I'm kind of I want there to be a little bit of a difference, to be honest. I want to think that
absolutely, but too bad.
Yeah, you're paying for a nicer screen. That's what you're paying for.
Well, and the truth is, because we talked about this in the video too. The haptics are awesome in this phone, and that's not a big headline grabber, but
haptics are great.
Haptics are great, and that's an important part of the experience of using a phone. Like, a phone feels better crafted if the haptics are tight and good. This is again one of those things, a nod to Apple, that they figured out years ago. They started putting good haptic motors in their iPhones, and there was just something different. Like, when you held it, and there's something different when you start using a loose haptic motor. It's like, ugh, what is this? Like, this big, like, kind of feel versus that tight punch you get from a good haptic motor. And so, Google's figured that out, I think, since, the Pixel 2, probably, maybe 2 or 3, when they started putting these really nice haptic motors in, and they've put them in all of their phones since that point. But the speakers are great. I would say, we did side by side with the Pixel 6, and I almost feel like it's the same speaker set. Like, they sounded very, very similar. I still think the Pixel 6 is a little bit better.
Yeah, what you said with the haptics, what we noticed, the haptics on the 6 are great. They really are, but there's been some news going around about the placement of them on that compared to the 6 Pro. And obviously, they've put them in a better place on the 6A, because the haptics on the 6A actually feel better than on the 6.
Yeah,
they're not. The 6 aren't. They're not sloppy. They're not rattly. They're just where they're placed. They're not as strong. You get a way more distinct feedback with the 6A than you do the 6. It's amazing.
Yeah, basically, it's the haptic motor is like down lower in the handset. So especially while you're typing, it's more under your fingers. Like, I notice it a ton with the 6 Pro. And so it feels like they made that kind of. I don't know if they made that decision on purpose, or that's just where they had space to put it, but. Like, when you start talking about all that stuff together, so, the same aluminum side rails basically as the Pixel 6, cameras that are clearly top notch. They're not, technically speaking, Google's best, but for all intents and purposes, great. Great haptics, great speakers, a good screen apart from this 60 hertz, refresh rate thing that's going on. Like, part of that could just be psychosomatic from having looked at high refresh screens for so long. I think there's a chance if you use this for probably 3, 4, 5 days solid, which I did not, I would use it kind of off and on and off and on and off and on, that maybe your eyes would just get used to that and you wouldn't think about it as much. It's just been a long time since I've used full time for like weeks and months on end a phone that has 60 hertz refresh rate. But the colors on it look good. I mean, it's a good OLED screen. Like, it's not
camera
stellar.
Hump on
it's good.
The camera hump on the back. Like, I don't dislike it on the 6 and 6 Pro, but the way they've made it more subtle.
Hold them up on your camera so the focus.
It's so awesome.
It's
so awesome.
It's very subtle. I mean, the phone will almost.
It's not flush, but man,
it's not flush.
So much closer.
It's a really, really good look, and it looks really good with those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle D-brand skins that Joanna wrote about. So, yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah,
I do like the color too. We have, what is this? Is this Sage?
This is Sage.
Yeah, it looks
Sage. So yeah, I mean, you put all that stuff together and give it a $449 price tag.
Right.
Let it go on sale for $399, $349 for Black Friday or something, and you start looking and going, okay, if you want the Pixel experience, if you've been eyeballing a Pixel phone, it's not to say I think that the 6 and 6 Pro are overpriced, because they're not. I think they're priced very well. I think $600 for the Pixel 6 is great. But this is a way to get there, I think, on even a smaller budget and still feel like it is 100% the iPhone SE move, without being, I think, as many cheapening hardware moves to get there. So I feel like Apple, like with the display on the SE is still real gross. It's just an old LCD display. So now you're getting a nice OLED, small bezel screen. It doesn't look like a phone from 2005. It looks like something modern. You're getting the speakers. You're getting a great camera array, not a single camera, a multi-camera array. You're getting Google's best silicon, and granted, it's not as good as Apple's latest silicon, but you're getting what Google has, the best thing Google has to offer. And so, I mean, I think that the downgrades that they're putting in place here are the right ones. Like, they did all the right things. They cut all the right corners for this particular phone, and I think they did a great job with it. I really do.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this clip of the Chromecast. If you want to see the full episode, you can check the link down in the description, or you can just go search the Chromecast podcast on YouTube. But we appreciate you watching this clip. If you like the content, give us a thumbs up. Go down there and click subscribe, and make sure to click the bell notification right there next to it so you get a notification when we publish future episodes. We appreciate you watching. We'll catch you all in the next one. See you.